All right, folks, it's for real. He's in the house. That's right. Ironcaster is here. What's your story? He's finally done. It's my fault. I'm not invited in, let's be honest. But there's a lot of things going on, and it's great to get a chance to talk to him. His channel's going crazy. He's on a bunch of shows. He's on with me every Tuesday. Ironcaster, my brother, thanks for coming and hanging out.
It's my pleasure to be here. It's one of the things we've never quite brought it up, never really talked about it too much, and we're like, it was almost one of those unspoken things. We're like, yeah, we'll get to it at some point. We just kind of kept putting it off, like so many of the other movies that we keep bringing up on Talk Hard.
Yeah, it's one of these things too, where we're all trying to like navigate real life stuff and J jobs and all those kinds of things, and trying to figure out, and it's just like it is, like you said, just kind of felt right. Like, yeah, we should do that. We should just do that. And especially so much has gone well for you lately. Like you got your own Monday show. You're on Talk Hard on Tuesdays. You're on T-shirt on Tuesdays. You've got comic books on Fridays. You've got T-shirt again, The Weekend Geek on Saturdays. You're jam packed full, that kind of thing. I'll say it. It sounds a little gross, but what gets your gears off, man? What makes this all go wild? It's not a lot to juggle. What makes that to bring you happiness and joy, my friend?
Well, the thing about it that's ultimately kind of bringing me together is at first there was that frustration over the thing that had started up was there was a lot of frustration with where the escapism was going. Like, well, these comics aren't as fun. What's going on here? And the whole Comicsgate frustration sort of arose there for a time, and then that sort of bled over into the kind of larger escapism itself of the movies, the TV shows, where everything was being about current day politics, and so unfortunately, it had this weird habit of just forcefully dating everything back to the time at which it was made.
Yeah, it's one of these things too, where of the people that I spend most time with, you're one of the ones that really has just a great fondness and appreciation for stuff that's older that uh, isn't always expressed when you find something for the first time. You're one of the ones that's like, oh, I've never seen that. Let's watch it, and you're like, man, that is really good, and that is a fun experience that I think not enough of our YouTubers are doing. Is not only sharing older stuff, but also trying to find someone who may not have seen it and then trying to share their experience. And I think that's something you bring to the table that people are really enjoying.
Well, there is a certain fun to that. It's getting to discover these things for the first time. In many cases, it's all the obvious things like, what, you've never seen X, you've never seen Y,
Mm-hmm.
and then also getting to then turn around and find someone who has also never seen that, and then get to show them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I can't believe I didn't see this. What do you mean you haven't seen Die Hard? We got to totally watch Die Hard. And well, I mean, it also stems into sort of that idea of the general fun of getting to re-experience something for the first time through the eyes of another.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there are just these trends on YouTube of people who are like recording their first reactions to movies, where people discovering the whole Luke, I am your father of Star Wars, of like
Right.
sometimes little kids getting to see that for the first time and getting that innocence, getting that innocence back of getting to see that for the first time ultimately.
Yeah, I know a lot of people have asked me to do that. My setup in my life does not gel well for me. I'm going to sit here for 2 hours and watch a movie, but I do try to express that the best I can. I get called out a lot, like, if you look this up or if you look that up or you should know. I'm like, no, I usually have share a very visceral response with things. You have done that as well, and I think it's part of what makes your presence very genuine, because you're just who you are, and I can vouch for that for sure. And I think that's what lends itself well to the things that you're into, because you have not shied away from really being like an uber niche guy. You're really into tabletop gaming, D&D type stuff, Japanese entertainment, odd comic books, not just even like mainstream comics. So you're into that, but you've leaned into the fact that I'm just who I am. I'm really sorry the algorithm doesn't like that as much as maybe other people. But is that hard for you, or you just feel like that's just the best way to be me? Is just lean into it.
Well, I'm like, there is a frustration out that does exist over like, yeah, I wish I was bigger, sure, but the thing is, there are things I could, if I was really wanting to gear that way, that I could really do to up that. But the thing is, that's like that. A lot of that, in a way, feels so inauthentic to who I am. That if that it winds up feeling sort of like, oh, I'm trying to play this algorithm game and try to be this kind of cookie cutter, whatever the YouTube corporate lords want. Uh, look, I'm at the moment I have like 750 subscribers. I'm pretty happy with that, and it's all about just kind of finding that audience, finding the other little weirdos out here who are also into a lot of this stuff.
And I don't know. Again, we can debate that if you want, because I know Ryan was one of the people I met early in the process who was about pounding the drum of suppression and the algorithms and all that. I actually think that now that we've been doing this, I mean, really have had my foot on the gas now for definitely the last year and a half of really kind of looking at that a little bit. I just think people are a lot more thoughtless when it comes to entertainment. Like they're just just doing their life. They'll follow the trends. They'll jump on the bandwagons. They have two or three people that they sort of like outsource their opinions to. Like someone else is giving them a review or someone's giving them a breakdown, and they kind of outsource that as their own rather than experimenting or going outside that box. So I don't think that the algorithm hates Ironcaster, and if you were to do Deadpool or Wolverine, I don't think it's going to reward or punish you for doing Deadpool or Wolverine. I just think that most people care what these two or three big YouTubers that are kind of like shills for Marvel who get inside scoops, so they're ahead of the curve on certain things that make their following bigger than ours. They get more of like that outsourcing than we do. And our opinions and our audiences, like they just gotten to know us. They know that we're not going to lie to them. Like if you go in and you like Deadpool Wolverine, that's going to maybe mean more to them because they trust your resume, if that makes sense. I mean, is that kind of how you approach? Like, who do you listen to get that opinion? Let's say I don't want to say if you're so let's say you are going to. I don't know if I want to see Deadpool Wolverine, but I want to hear what someone else has to say about it. Who do you go to? Who do you lean into for like a trustworthy opinion?
Well, it's all about finding those voices that in a way kind of mesh with your own. Maybe kind of get that. You want to get a good little mix of someone who might agree with you, someone who might not necessarily agree with you and your take. But I'll tend to go look towards the big guys, to your Nerdrotics, to your Midnight's Edge. Those are the guys sort of in that little culture, that little corner wheelhouse of the people who I tend to lean towards. I know I can trust their opinions because they're not trying to vie for some early access. They're not trying to necessarily play a game, pander to an audience. If they like something, they're going to say they like it. And some of these guys I can turn around and I can reach out to. Like I can go reach out to Loki and say like, "What, you really like this movie? Like what's going on there?" And they're the guys who will tell you like, "Yeah, straight up, I liked it."
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of value in building that sort of reputation too, right? You're building that like I call it the resume of reputation, and it's just this longevity of trying to document your opinions on different things, and it's almost like a scorecard. You're not going to agree with anyone 100%, but if you're agreeing with this person 80% of the time, and this person that you're supposed to agree with, you only agree with like 30% of the time. It's like that, So I think that is definitely a good way of looking at sort of like the review aspect of things. Uh,
It it comes to bring to mind this idea that I think Robert Meyer Burnett had said some time ago, and the more time has gone, the more I'm kind of inclined to agree with it. It's that authenticity is going to be a currency.
hmm.
That we're seeing that more and more right now, especially with how YouTube is presently one of the biggest streaming platforms around. Like this is where all the eyeballs are at. People want those authentic voices. They don't want someone who's going to turn around and BS them. They don't want someone who's going to blow smoke and just say purely what they want to hear. They want to hear people's authentic opinions.
What is something that you feel like your opinion radically changed on? You either liked or disliked it at first, and now you radically are the other direction. While you think about it, I'll give you. So the most famous one, of course, for me would be Last Jedi. I didn't hate it when I came out of the theater. but I was like, I came out of the theater like, what did I just watch? Like, I didn't know how to feel. Like, I was a mess. And then as I watched it the second time with the kids and the family, I was like, ugh. And then as time has gone on, I stopped. I never watched it again. Uh, I actually kind of feel a little bit about like that same way with like Mad Max Fury Road. I loved it when it came out. I did a rewatch. I didn't even do a video, I don't think, on Fury Road or not, but it was like it's not bad, but I definitely would go significantly down from my initial and I think because it felt so different at the moment, but the story and some of the little innuendos and things like that didn't really sit with me. And now after watching it again, it kind of like I dramatically went down a bit. You got any examples like that for you?
Well, I mean, Mad Max Fury Road is a pretty obvious one that is that I think I'm kind of in the same boat on, and that was one I might have brought up. But I mean, just to kind of bring up some of the really dumb movies that like we've talked about.
Mhm.
There's certain movies that we've always heard for years and years that these are supposed to be like awful movies, no one likes them, but then maybe you get around to watching, and you're like, for incredibly dumb reasons, I kind of like this,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
it'll be a movie like Highlander 2. Like
Okay.
it is a bad movie,
Right.
but it's got charm. I kind of I like some of the weirdness out of it.
It's like that subway scene for you, right? Isn't that what it is? Or isn't it where is it we see he's yelling and stuff? That's just you love that scene. You love those moments. So.
That I mean that, and when the other two guys pop up, and Conor McGregor, or Conor McLeod, he like gets made young again, and you have these two screaming banshee guys flying around on their little like jet skateboards they took out
Yeah.
of like Back to the Future
Yeah, they're
to
hoverboard
like
knockoffs. Mhm.
yeah. Yeah, it's full of a lot of dumb stuff. There's some interesting set design there. I like to it. The the premise is just so out there, so unlike the first movie, that in a way I kind of warmed up to it.
See, it sounds more like the bad films that I like category. Like it's the bad films that I like, and I kind of like have reasons on why I don't hate them, like most people do or should. And for me, it's kind of like not everybody does hate this movie, right? But for me, Tron is significantly better than most people because I grew up watching theater, right? I saw this and it was like again, when you're 11 years old in a theater, you don't even have anyone in your close circles that has a home computer, let alone be able to see inside a home computer. You don't know what all these terms mean. It was sort of like this world uh exposure that just grabbed a hold of me. So I hold that movie in so much higher regard than a lot of people, especially as general critics do, where they kind of consider it pretty midland, groundbreaking for its technology of its time, maybe, but no one really. There's not a lot of critical like acclaim of Tron or anything like that, and that makes me even love Tron Legacy for the same reason. I felt like even though Tron Legacy has its own set of issues, it was the world building, the immersion that I wanted, and I got more of that. So I love those movies way more than I probably should, but I can usually like this explain why, which you were doing with Highlander 2, which I can't agree with, but I totally am willing to respect how wrong you are. It's okay.
So yeah, that's a movie we got to do on Talk Hard. By the way, we got to do the Tron Legacy.
Yeah, Tron Ares is in development, so I feel like it'll find its way around to be a topic of discussion for sure. I don't exactly know if Tron Ares will be on target for next year or not. It is filming right now, or it has recently wrapped. Actually, we're gonna do a video on that because I was talking about how Jeff Bridges is confirmed to come back. I don't know what kind of role that'll be like, but he's at least supposed to be in it in some way, shape, or form. So, yeah. All right. So, as you've done this for now for a while, what is one of the biggest things that you would tell people who are like just starting out? Maybe they've been doing it for a few weeks, or maybe they're just thinking about doing it, or something like that. Is there something that's through that grind of it all, which I've repeatedly talk about people how it definitely is a grind. What's some of the advice that you could give them?
It's probably the best advice I could give. It's it's not one of the things I follow the most of all. But I think the most important thing a person could do is find their niche, find that particular topic or subject or kind of area of interest, and just keep hammering that. If you want to talk big robots, be the big robot channel, because you're gonna find that audience, and they're gonna like what you're doing there. But if you then decide to throw in some videos about accounting, your existing fan base is gonna look at you like, what's this about? Like, why are we suddenly talk about accounting? Like, this has nothing to do with the reason why I subscribe to you. And then also on the YouTube side, they're going to look at that like, how does this feed into the algorithm of where we've kind of put your channel?
Okay. I can agree mostly. I would say your example is very extreme. Like, I think, yes, I think if you're trying to talk about big robots and pop culture, and you're also trying to want to talk about your day job as an accountant, those two things don't go together. If you had to do that, you would do two channels. That wouldn't work well at all, right? But for me, I don't think there's a massive problem with having, like, it's a pop culture channel. I think we saw this with Echo Base Network, where they had a hard time breaking away from the Star Wars only content, and they had to find other pop culture avenues. It took a while and reset. So I think there's a way to do that. I will say it does create a lot of weird numbers. People look at your channel, they don't understand. You can have videos that just don't do well at all and grow over time, or you can have other videos that will pop off. And you do have audience members that are there for pieces of that. So you have to make sure you're trying to feed them individually. So it definitely is a lot more work and challenge than, like you said, just going deep into something that you love or passionate about. I think that, what are your thoughts on trying to find, you would tell that same person, like, list 3 things that you know quite a bit about that you like doing. Like, you actually like it. It doesn't matter what it is, whatever that may be. And that way you can try to say, or you can try to, hopefully it won't feel as much work as it can feel.
It's probably not a bad way to go. Again, the idea is that you kind of have to put yourself into a box. But then you have that problem of, if something comes along where that box has to change on you, you've built up these walls around yourself that are going to make it difficult to make that pivot.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh, I agree. It's hard, right? If you're a Star Wars channel and then suddenly you don't like any of the Star Wars content that's coming out, how much rage content do you want to do? There are some, like, band-aids for that. You can do stuff that's, retro, best of type things. You can kind of branch out into more niche things, but that's not what that's not what people are clicking on, because the algorithm, like it or not, is a reflection of, like I said, that sort of like NPC world of the normies. Like, what are the normies clicking on? And they're going to be looking at Acolyte right now. They're not looking at, the best lightsabers of all time. That will do fine. You'll have maybe a good response for that. But how many of those can you keep doing before you dull your brain? You know what I mean? So, yeah, that's good. What is your, like, honestly, because you have a day job, you have things going on. How do you sort of organize things in a way that you use your time wisely, if you will, for YouTube? Because you have a lot going on. You have like 5 nights you're doing stuff. So how do you manage planning time? How do you fit in time to, I'm going to make sure I get this watched before Talk Hard. I'm going to get this comic book read before Friday. I'm going to get this watch. How do you even manage doing so much?
I'll be honest. There are times where it feels like there's not enough hours in the day where I'm like, oh, I'm supposed to get this done. Like, oh, I have a comic. I've got to go read Weapon X before the Friday, before my Friday comic show. I still haven't done it yet, but it's all just a matter of kind of. It's something I really ought to work on more. I ought to really try to prioritize how I use my time. At the end of the day, I kind of look back and say, I could have done this better. It is a little bit of a struggle that I have to learn to do better on. And just kind of, now kind of being confronted about it, it's something that I really need to stop and question myself on. But I mean, depending on the days, sometimes it's easier than others. If I know I've got 5 or 6 days, then yeah, I can kind of put certain things off. But as that time starts getting shorter, it starts kind of moving up my list of priorities. Okay. So I keep a lot of things relative.
Do you have you keep a little list of what you should be doing?
Uh, honestly, not really.
Okay.
It's kind of all just I have for years and years I've always been kind of fairly against like feeling the need to write things down. Like I'll go to the store and I'll know, hey, I have these 5 or 6 items I need to pick up,
Mm.
and I only just and I'll probably and I'm usually pretty good about it. Sometimes I'll forget the odd item, but I have started trying to take some steps to fix this.
Oh yeah,
Where
I'm gonna tell you that's the way to go. So I, it was a bro science guy. My wife can tell me she has lists of lists, and she lectured me about not writing stuff down. And then for my day job, I kind of have to write stuff down. So it's almost like when I want to do this fun stuff, I don't want to like it didn't I didn't want it to emulate my day job, and I had to have like one of these bro science guys talk about the skills that you've learned over here are valuable over here, and then they explain like the biochemistry. Like if you actually write something on a list and when you do it and you mark it off your list, your body actually gets like a dopamine hit and it becomes like an addiction to marking crap off your list. And I'm like, I didn't believe it. And now I'm like, I'm addicted to doing the process. Like I will have a random news thing that pops up to do a video. I will write it on the list just so I can mark it off the list. Even though I didn't need to, I could have just done the video and just done it because there is something to that. I wish I could explain it beyond that in its simplest terms, but I'm not the expert. I've just hijacked it into my routine for sure.
you know, thinking about it, there's some logic. There is a good idea to that. I admittedly like, I do like making lists. I mean, I just kind of got on like, hey, I just kind of got us on with the talk hard with, hey,
Oh
let's
yeah.
put together a list of like this stuff. And there's something just satisfying I get. There's that little satisfying itch I get out of organizing these lists where I'll make list of just stuff of all kinds of stuff like, oh, what's all in my movie collection, and then I can go
Mhm.
down and I can start like kind of not only go through and kind of or organize my what I have for my movies. I can also turn around and just mark these down on the list, and then you know there is a satisfying like element to that, and it's something I need to just kind of learn to embrace more into ultimately more of my hobbies, my interest.
Yeah. Yeah. I was a reluctant student in that regard. So I have to be honest, it's helped me some. And I definitely have like insane amounts of notes and stuff. Like this is just it's insane. And I've done this thing where I'm trying to get rid of paper. So I have like the major, the pops document, and then I have like the paper list where I scratch things off. So like I'll go
Yep.
through whole notebooks just trying to get rid of the notebook. I'm just like constantly using those pages and stuff just to use them all because it is so uh it keeps me moving faster too. Whereas I put stuff on the pops list, things would just sit there and age out. And I realized I wasn't doing or reacting to the things on that list as fast as when I'd write them on paper. So you guys out there in the comments will let us know if that any of that works for you or not. Uh, so we've been doing Talk Hard where this is we're coming up on the Talk Hard 100 around this time. So that's been quite a journey for you because you have sort of like stuck it out so long. Like I think when we were doing Halo, we were kind of like had a little round table of like, well, should we kind of keep going or not? And you were like, yeah, sure, let's keep doing it. Um, we've had highs and lows. We've had weird movies and sort of mainstream things you've never seen or even heard of, and things that you're like, oh man, this movie's so you've been on like this Week in Geek way longer than you've been on Talk Hard. What is it like to see a show evolve over that much time? Where you're talking about, you know what episode of This Week in Geek you're on? Because it's got to be into the hundreds. It's years.
I The thing is, like, it's nothing we really kept track of.
Oh
It's
yeah,
just kind of
okay,
like, hey, let's hop in this week and we'll talk about some of our movies. We'll talk about
right,
whatever stuff. Ultimately, T-shirt feels like talking about.
yeah, yeah. What is it like to be part of all that and how the show evolves?
I mean, the Weekend Geek has been an interesting little show to do because sometimes we'll talk a little bit about fighting games. We'll talk a little bit about mostly role playing games, and it always feels like there's a show like that can always have that next step. Like, what can we do to further refine? There's an interesting kind of tinkering to it that comes about.
Okay, all right. Yeah, we've talked about Loki and I talk about a little bit with Talk Hard as well. We have a fourth person and trying to like we kind of bring in a fourth person a lot of times and things like that. So it's been, what kind of works, what doesn't work. And I also think, like you said earlier, with the schedule and busy and things like that, it's hard to maybe plan a certain, like, I don't want to say technique, but this is how we would do it before versus how we do it now. Copyright issues were definitely part of that problem as well, where I would, go back to the earliest Talk Cards. We were showing like the whole movie. We were walking through like most of the movie, and it's like, oh crap. They're like, anytime there was us not talking, they were like copyright flagging stuff. And it's like, crap, I gotta trim this, I gotta do that or whatever. And it's like too much work after the fun of doing the show. I'm like, it was, I won't say it was taking the wind out of my sails, but I wasn't enjoying that part of it. So I'm like, we got to stop doing that. Let's find a different solution. So I guess my point to the question was that shows evolve and change for different reasons. And obviously you, as the guest on those two shows, and really even Nick's show as well would be another good example, where it's like you can see how some of those ebbs and flows change over time. I thought people would kind of know, like, if you're going to be asked to be on a show regularly, that's kind of how this is going to operate. Because you may have like a certain type of approach now, but let's say 6 months or a year from now, we may have to do a little bit difference here, a little difference there. And I think that's just an interesting point of observation.
Yeah, I mean, there's always that challenge of what does the YouTube reward and what is going to kind of get in the way? What is going to be a problem there? You have this whole issue of sometimes, again, the copyright pops up. Sometimes it's a matter of, well, what's the audience reacting to? There's so many other little things that can go into play that you never quite know what's going to be like, what's going to work, and for how long.
Oh yeah, that's so true.
Oh, by the way, I gotta say, I like the back. I like the layout here because it looks like a trading card.
Oh, okay, yeah, cool, very cool.
Yeah.
So you don't like that one?
Well, no, I'm saying if we back up, we if we go back to the other one where we have like the comic, this one here.
Yep.
This looks like, in a way, this should be a trading card.
Kind of. I wish these boxes were like you could. I mean, I guess you can kind of change them through the thing, but it doesn't really let us change them. So, anyway, but yeah, I think that when you're navigating the YouTube changes, the audience changes, your personal life changes, a flow and change that you have control over. I will say that it's a lot more fluid than when I did like radio work or a show with other people that had a lot more creative control than doing your own YouTube channel. So when you're on a guest or you're on a show that could be different each week, or you're on a panel like you are with T-shirt, it's like there is certain elements of free for all that kind of come into play that you never know what to expect sometimes. So it's good stuff. It's fun.
Yeah, it can. The thing is, like, always kind of being like that, either, I don't want to say a frequent guest / co-host, it can get into a bit of chaos sometimes, like, especially when you have those larger groups. You have this whole matter of, there's so many people here, everyone's trying to talk over each other, and there's an important thing to learn in knowing when to step back, when to stay silent. And kind of getting that ebb and flow, and also knowing when you have to talk, when you have to speak up. You want to make sure that you want to make sure that what you're doing is for the best of the show. Is this the right time for me to butt in? No. Is someone on a roll? Someone making a really good point? If that's the case, I'm gonna let this go. Like, I need to know when to step back and let the good thing go on, where it may not necessarily be about me. It's about ultimately the betterment of this bigger show that you're just one piece of, maybe one larger piece of, but still you're one piece of.
Yeah, it's really, really good advice, because it's a difficult challenge. I know you were part of one of the San Diego Comic-Con conversations that we had one time where I got out over my skis, where everyone actually showed up, which I did not expect, because I think we just impromptu a San Diego Comic-Con, and I thought 2 or 3 people might come. Like, it was last minute. Let's just do it. I was free on a Thursday night. It just happened to work, and ended up having, like, we had people in the background. It was crazy. It's way over my skis. And it was a good learning experience. Like, okay, we're going to shoot for 4, maybe 6, the absolute most. It definitely is a lot to manage. And make something that I think people would enjoy watching. And I think at times it's hard to keep people included, to keep a flow that you don't have to cut people off because they're kind of like they're going through a pretty extensive point or example. So they're 2-3 minutes can feel like eternity if you've been silent for 2 or 3 people. So yeah, that's a very valid perspective on how to view a show like a 10,000 foot view. You know what I mean? When you're in it, it's hard to see all that sometimes. Yeah, for sure.
Well, and I mean, one of the other challenges that comes with that is also knowing that when you have that spotlight, try to keep your point concise. You don't want to just do this run on sentence where you're just going on and on and on and on, and you're trying, and you have all these other people here. You need to know as well, not only when to step back, but also when to not necessarily hog the limelight.
True. True. What is a big memory or something that you just love to think about sometimes from This Week in Geek? Because there's been so many of those. Say I didn't do
One of my
top card
favorite
on purpose.
Yeah. Well, one of my favorite things with that show is just the big variety of people we've been able to get on. It's always kind of fun with those guys because while I am into tabletop, I'm not some big tabletop historian where there's a lot of the bigger names that we've been able to get on from sort of the history of tabletop or from all these little corners of the net that I may not necessarily know, but hey, this is the guy who helped create Vampire the Masquerade, which is a fairly well known role playing game.
Huge.
And getting a chance to talk with people who I might not necessarily know, like in any other world, I probably wouldn't have ever really gotten to know a guy like Grimm, and who's someone who I would now say is a friend, someone who I'll just kind of reach out and talk with them, like, hey, how are you doing today?
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. This has been a weird shrinking of the world in a lot of ways, right? Yeah, for sure.
And also like this has been such a great chance to get to know so many people from all these different walks of life. Like, of course, a guy like Jace, he's so out there. He wears his heart on his sleeve. He'll tell you exactly what he's feeling. This is in any other world, I might not have ever gotten a chance to know him, but it was because of all this nerd stuff that I've got to know him.
Who is kind of your role model?
In which aspect?
We'll start with YouTube.
Probably there's a few guys who I look up to, who I'm always looking to, asking myself, how would they do these things? Oftentimes there's people who I'll stop and I'll kind of look at their thumbnails and I'm like, okay, what are they doing here? What little pieces can I kind of pocket from this? And it'll be guys like Loki, it'll be guys like Culture Casino, Nerdrotic is a big one, the Geeks and Gamers. They all have these little aspects that I'll kind of look to and say, oh, I like the way he did that. Let me just kind of pocket this.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. In real life.
I mean, I'd say probably someone like my father, who's always been this big aspect of this big part of my life. He's someone who I've always looked up to. I may not necessarily get to spend a ton of time with him because he was always having to travel for work. Being a roofer, doing construction, he's going where there's work. So it would always kind of become this case of, it's always so exciting to get to see him when he would come to town, and really a lot of what I do, a lot of the stuff I'm into is because of him. He's the reason why I got into comic books. He loved Wolverine, and it's from a little bit before I really had a ton of memories, but I can still kind of have some vague recollections. He would watch the X-Men cartoon in the mornings with me, and he would make the guys wait on him so he could finish watching X-Men.
Awesome. That's good. That's good. That's real good.
So
Good job,
he's
Dad.
like, no, he's like, no, I'm watching X-Men with my son. We can go after this.
Yeah, we're almost done. We're almost done. That's good. That'll reach right there. Good. That's good. What is something about YouTube that you want to do next? Do you have sort of like a set goal or plan of how you kind of want to stack weeks stack into months, which become a year? How do you want to look at things going forward?
To be honest, I'm kind of looking more at the week to week right now. Right
Mhm.
now, I'm just kind of looking ahead. I think one of the big changes I need to make is I need to pull back more time for myself for my channel, because out of the like 5 or 6 shows that I do during the week, only one of those is really for my own channel, and that's something I really should try to prioritize more. I think that's gonna be one of the bigger changes going forward. Maybe I don't know. Maybe I'll try to cut a little more time out in the week for that. And I think that's probably the next big change I'm gonna have to make.
Does anyone else that you're on shows with do like shorts like I do? And I say that only
Not
because
really.
I wonder if I had to give you like just a random piece of advice, which by the way they should start doing shorts too, because it's not that hard to have AI make the short for you. You just have to tweak it to make it your own. Is I would make an Ironcaster playlist and pull the clips of like you that you feel like would represent you on your channel. Like make a playlist of that content. You know what I mean? So it's not you taking the video and re-uploading it. You're just putting a playlist there saying this is me on this, talk hard shorts or whatever. And they're just your favorite ones or whatever they may be. And it's a way of, I won't say building content on your channel without it being your content, but I've noticed someone else doing that. And I thought to myself, and then I saw someone else that's in our circle. They made a playlist of them on other shows, and it's just them appearing on other shows or whatever. So you had a playlist that was just you on Nick's thing. It was just a playlist. So it's still your channel, and yes, they are still going and giving a view to Nick, but it's capturing your presence. It's capturing your footprint in the meantime. Just taking value that is there of the thing. So because I had a friend who was doing some content with me. James Mealy was doing Why It's Great. Actually, Why It's Great was his idea. We're talking about, pick a random comic book, talk about why it's great. It's cheap. It's off the beaten path. And then I can't get my schedule to line up with him. He's a West Coast guy. And then so he just started doing them on his own channel. And he kind of like made a thing, like he had his own playlist, made his own playlist of these were pops and these are mine. I'm like, that's a good idea. That's a good way of capturing your footprint, if you would. So, because I think you're making a pretty big footprint. I just don't think you realize how much an impact on so many people you've made because it's sort of spread across different channels and different times. It's so easy for us to look at the glass looks empty to us sometimes. And I think that's a way for you to see that there's a lot more water in your glass than you even give yourself. You always sell yourself short. I've been telling you that for 2 years. So,
Yeah, it's in a way it's been a little tricky there too, because part of me wonders if it isn't because I don't want to. Maybe a lot of what's going on is it's just sort of selling myself short because I don't want to come off as if I have some big ego where I want to make everything all about me. And maybe it's I think what it is there's a little bit more of an overly critical aspect of myself, because you know what they say, you are your own worst critic. And it's sort of that there's some elements of that kind of self-loathing that kind of go into play that will oftentimes just you kind of in the back of my head telling me like, no, don't make this about you. This is you haven't done anything worthwhile to really talk about. And maybe it's it's just a matter of I listen to that voice a little too much sometimes.
I think we all do. And I think sometimes it's trying to stack the evidence of what you've done rather than try to be fake or an imposter about it, because you're one of the most genuine people that I've met all along the way. You're just who you are, and it's been great. And I love the fact that we went with the background. I'm sorry, we went without the background. So it's like you're seeing behind the scenes in the old Ironcaster universe, man. Talk about
Yeah.
a great way to like, there he is. Yeah. So
Yeah, it seemed like a good. Well, it was a little bit of technical difficulties, but I figured
yeah,
it'd be a good chance. Let's rip the bandage off. Let's kind of get away from a lot of the
yeah.
green screen and a lot of the facade I might put up for myself.
And it was impromptu, so like it's chaos back there. It's like it wasn't like it was planned, and he had time to like make it all meticulous or put all these little his statues or his comics behind. No, it was just like, well, this isn't going to work, so let's just take it down. Let's try that. I'm like, that sounds good. Let's do that. So, well, I
It's like, no,
usually let everybody.
This is
Yeah,
me.
go ahead. Yeah, there it is. Yes,
It's like, no, this is me. This is my little room I hang out in. Like, I've got there's a door. There's kind of the door to the outside that, you know, sometimes I'll have people try to coming in through, and it's like, come on, now I'm on a show.
I love it when he'll go to Icon and he's behind the scenes. He's moving it all around, and he's coming back with something very interesting from what, you know, within arm's reach or not. So yes, it's great. Well, usually the people ask a question at the close of the show, so I'll do that next. But folks, just make sure you're checking out Ironcaster, and I will try to make sure I track down all the links for T-shirt and for Nickweiser and all that, so you can connect to those shows as well. Because his footprint is way beyond his own channel, and I think that is part of what Ironcaster has done. That is something I'd recommend for folks, especially when they're having a lot of schedule issues, or maybe even just maybe you just have technical issues. You just don't want to be an editor, an uploader, and all that kind of crap. Like, you want to just be a personality on other shows. It's totally fine. Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And like I said, I think one of the pieces of advice with that is make a playlist on your channel that says there's all these shows, whatever. It's easy for people to find that way. So, and it probably will help that other person's channel, because they'll be like, wait, you're on with Nickweiser? Yeah, I have a playlist at the bottom of my channel. Just hit that. It takes you over to Nick's channel. You can see the shows or whatever. It's like, so I think there is some value to that as well, to do that. So, yeah.
Well, one of the things I have been trying to make more of an effort to do is, you know, thanks to the community feature of YouTube, you know, make these little cross posts of, hey, you know, coming up here about the next hour, so I'll be over here with I'll be here on Friday nights. I'll be on with Nickweiser. I'll be doing Talk Hard. We're gonna be covering this movie. You know, little things like that I can do to help try to better promote other people as well. So it is good for those other channels as well to do.
Yeah, I agree. I'm terrible about using any element of promotion. I'm terrible. I'll forget about Twitter. I'll forget about doing stuff, and I'll just forget to. And I shouldn't, because it has scheduling options, and I just forget. There's no excuse. I literally just suck at that. So,
well, you see, this is why you need to put it on your list.
I do. You know, the problem with that list is you start doing that list gets really complicated. But you're right. I really should. I actually had that as a spreadsheet calendar for one point. Then I just got overwhelmed because it was just riddled full of stuff. And if you get behind, it just becomes this massively growing thing. It's just woof. Yeah. So. Well, brother, we've known each other for a minute, so I'm anxious to see what kind of questions you would come up for me. So let's do a little bit of that right now.
All right. So,
what
has been your biggest surprise in this whole YouTube journey? Like, what's been the biggest surprise for you to discover?
The friendship part, the fact that it would be so welcoming. I come from a radio background. These are people that would treat you like competition. You were on their show to them to use you to be on their show, or they were using you to produce their show, or they were never really interested in trying to help you grow or do something that you wanted to do. It was almost like exploitation. This has been, I mean, we touched a little bit about, you know, call them a friend thing, but I mean, it's pretty legit. You know what I mean? I think if we lived near each other, we'd be hanging out a lot. It'd be kind of, you know what I mean? Yeah.
Oh, there'd be a barbecue.
Yeah. Well, we'd go see the movie together. We just go see that together. We just go see this together. It'd just be part of it, because it's, you know, I think that when we're all in our little bubbles, it's sometimes that and as you get older, when you're old like me, you get pretty far away from those that you were closest with. You know, the friends that I went to college with, we would do these things just like Talk Hard. We would just go hang out, and then we're at a Steak and Shake, and we're talking about these movies just like we do on Talk Hard for hours on end. But over time, so-and-so got married, so-and-so moved, so-and-so's here, so-and-so's there. Doing this with Pops, I've been shocked that I was able to create I'm sorry, I was able to find so many welcoming people and create a group of that I call friends that I can kind of talk nerd stuff with, and I feel blessed to count you among them.
All right, so since that's well, that is a great thing there. Like I could absolutely see us all getting together. At least like I could see us doing like about once a quarter. What 2-3 times a year. We all get together. We do that thing where like we get to rent out a movie theater. We just like put on whatever. Like that I could
It'd be
absolutely
the
see that going
best.
on. Like, oh hey, this convention is coming up, and we should go and see what's the most obscure comic we can find for like a quarter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we all go to the dollar bin. Let's do a video on our dollar bin dive or whatever. Yeah, no, I think it's yeah, we're kindred spirits. It's been great. Been great.
So with the subject of pop culture being and with the landscape there being what it is, where do you see things going in the next 3 to 5 years? Like, what do you think is going to be the next big thing? Because in the last half decade or so, we've seen various trends kind of come and go. We've seen the rise of a lot of like the Korean dramas really taken off. Indian film has really blown up in a way that I never expected to have done. What do you think is going to be the trends going forward with the Hollywood entertainment, as well as where do you think is going to be the next venue of entertainment going to come from?
I think that the ship will make some small adjustments over the next 3 to 5 years. I don't know how fast that will go because things are in production for so long. Like I don't expect Disney to abandon Thunderbolts and Captain America because Deadpool Wolverine is a success and they are going to reevaluate what the audience wants or anything like that. So you've got stuff that's slated for a year or two before you could see things that they might change now manifest in a theater. TV's a little bit faster. We saw like the cancellation of Halo as a sign that means that the company that bought them is like, listen, we're not sure we want this type of content. We're not going to spend our money. We're not going to waste our money, blah, blah, blah. So it's a constant ebb and flow right now because we're still feeling such a massive fallout from the last 3 years. The pandemic in particular kind of like sped up the timeline of things that were going to take like a decade for them to burn through money and things like that were sped up. The government bailouts kind of changed that around the strikes and things of that nature. I would like to hope that uh, the industry is really in a place with streaming, and it seems like it's in a place where small, passionate people can make their product, whatever that means. We've seen it with comic books, we've seen it with some indie work, but I think even more than that. And I hope that we'll find another one or two in there. I don't know exactly what they'll be, but I'm hoping that we'll find the next Saw. The kids that make it for hardly anything, and it becomes a franchise that is, it's a dead horse that's getting beat, but the guy has a career now directing whatever. So I hope we'll find more of that. We'll find another really creative person. And it may just be totally unexpected. Like for instance, let me give you an example. Blumhouse did this thing. I just did a review that will drop, and it was on it's called Totally Killer. It's a Blumhouse directly to Amazon that Daryl the Derelict recommended. It's a Blumhouse. It's a horror movie, but it's like a horror comedy. And I'm like, she did a really good job of capturing all the things that everybody wants. It's funny, a little bit of horror. It's woke comedy, meaning like there's this back and forth of like woke person picking on so and so coming back. Then it's like it's the kind of comedy about that we all want, because it's like, is it the right thing to behave in the 80s or not? Is it the woke person out of line or not? So I want to hope that more people like her bubble to the top and have opportunities to make another film, another passion project, things of that nature. I hope that RR did that for SS Rajamouli. Like he can actually make something that he wants to really make. Like it becomes something, and we'll see another big project out of him that he made. I hope that Squid Game made people popular and famous enough to make something that they're passionate about, because it was such a massive cultural phenomenon. And I think I think that we're in a place where it's even more unpredictable because you don't have to have the big studios. The big studios are actually too corporate to be successful over the long haul. Like Super Mario Brothers works because you had a controlled passion behind it. But if we scale that out over 3 to 5 movies, is that fifth one the same? I just don't believe it will be. I just think that there's enough of that concessions for enough audiences or box office adjustments and things of that nature. Whereas a smaller scale thing, Cobra Kai would be an example that started out, I believe, on YouTube Red, becomes so full of passionate fans who loved it so much. They're getting ready to close out their sixth and final season. So I think that that's what makes the world exciting right now is whatever that means. I mean, Taylor Sheridan's another example, right? A guy just hammers away, falls into Yellowstone, which is completely made into a mess now because of Costner. And he's been able to carve out doing this type of drama. He met this guy who now is co-writing most of the cool episodes in Mayor of Kingstown. It's like you see these little circles and pockets moving, and it reshapes and changes all the chairs. I hope my dream wish would be, the answer to your question would be, it not only decentralizes from the major companies, it would also decentralize from them all living in like California and New York. They would actually live among us more, and that would allow them to have better life experiences they can put into their entertainment. That's what's missing, I think, more than just about it. If I put my finger on anything right now, is you have people who don't have enough life experience. You know, Jack Kirby was in a war. Like he brought so much to the table of what was going to go into his creations, you know, and it's like you go through what was Lucas, right? Lucas started with American Graffiti. It was like cars and them driving around, and we're like, okay, that life experience is kind of been lost from a lot of these creators, and I'm hoping that we can get more of that back. That's what I really hope over the next 3 to 5 years is we'll have more decentralization away from big corporate IPs. Not necessarily won't be IPs. I mean, Yellowstone's an IP, but less major, giant IPs. But also, I hope that we'll have more decentral because people can work from home and stuff easier. Like it's easier to be the Robert Rodriguez guy with a studio in Texas than it was. It's easier now than ever to do that, to live that kind of life, and that's what I hope really comes next. That's my I don't know. I don't know. Say I think it will happen, but that's what I'm hoping will happen.
One of the other big trends that I've been noticing as well is, and I think it's undeniable to notice, it's that rise in that popularity, that dominance that could become anime. Like,
it's so big now that me doing my little pop shop thing, I've been trying to figure out, is there a way that I could invest or acquire in an economical way to make money into manga? Like I said, so how do I acquire, a box of Dogman? How do I get, you know what I mean? It's like, it's so massive. I'm willing to admit that that's where the customers are to get them the good stuff that they want. I don't know what the future, I don't know how that keeps going. Yeah.
What you want to do is, if I don't know if you ever go to Barnes and Noble or any of those big bookstores like that. Do what I always do. Play the count the comic shelves game.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's all anime.
And
it's all anime. Yeah, I've talked about that for 5 years. Where you go in, it's like suddenly there are no comics anymore. There's only graphic novels, and then suddenly it was not 2 rows of graphic novels. It was like 1 row of graphic novels. Then it was like where are the graphic novels? There's anime. There's manga everywhere. So now I don't even know if are there graphic novels. I assume the graphic novels in most Barnes and Noble now are probably like the top selling 50 graphic novels of all time, and then a smattering of some new ones, and that's it.
Yep, I just went and bought a copy of Wolverine Weapon X.
Yeah, right.
And playing the game, playing the count the comic shelves game. Like there was like about right now about five the full bookshelves for comics. But the thing is, like that 5 is like really spread across like 6 or 7, where like half of one of those shelves is a lot of like little placeholder little squares, or we've also put in a bunch of like the Dungeons and Dragons books to kind of help fill this in. So you're like, well, that's not even a full shelf, but it's like it is slowly dwindling down, which is unfortunate because I get a little momentary hope that the American comic industry can come back. I was in the other day, and when I was picking this up, and there was like a mother and daughter in there, and they were picking out books, and I got to kind of talk with them, and I made a few suggestions their way. The mom wanted buying like The Last Ronin because I had made the recommendation of it.
Yeah, Yeah, I get you. Yeah. Well, we'll have to
But
talk about more of that on our comic talk for sure, because I think that'll be
we will.
the great time to do that. Let's do that. We'll shift gears for that, folks. Make sure you check that out, and make sure you're subscribed and connected to the different shows. And join us every Tuesday for Talk Hard. We have some great stuff coming up, so you don't want to miss out on that. So, brother, thank you so much for doing this, man. It's been awesome.
Hey, this is always a pleasure. Like, things just kind of worked out. I had the day off, and I was like, well, let's do this. We haven't done this yet. It is well past time.
Indeed, it is. It is, folks. You be blessed out there. Thanks for watching. I am Pops.